Okay, so one great example of very fast growth from a social media base and then converting that into an international media brand. And we can now move on to another example of growth, this time slightly longer established. Refinery29 is our topic, and to talk about that, please welcome the VP for International at Refinery29, Kate Ward. Kate.
Hello, everyone. Am I on? You can hear me? I'm delighted to be here and amongst such great company and to be in Berlin, surely the most vibrant city in Europe. I've been asked to come here today to share a little of what makes Refinery29 tick and how we are planning to delight and inspire our audiences around the world as we expand internationally. I hope I will achieve that by sharing the story not just of our company, but perhaps more importantly, the story of our most treasured relationship, that we have with our audience, how our understanding of them is shaping our global editorial strategy and our growth. So Refinery29 was born in 2005, started around a Brooklyn kitchen table by two school friends, Philip Bombaris and Justin Stefano. They were joined by two other friends, Piera Gallardi and Christine Barbaric. They had a simple mission. They wanted to create a space for discovery and the celebration of independent makers and artisans. And here's the original Refinery29 site, I hope. Oh, I've gone too far. That's today. There we go. We built an online mall where you could shop from all of these shops and created content to inform the audience of the best products, makers, and scenes. It was the digital equivalent of the best neighborhood you ever lived in. And today, we're a media company of over 350 people with a mission to empower and inspire women everywhere. We're makers, writers, producers, videographers, photographers, illustrators, strategists, and salespeople. And from our roots in fashion and style, we are now creating content across a range of subjects, from global news to technology, food, health, and wellness. Today on Refinery29, you can see stories such as how to transform your abs in 30 days, all the way through to street-style roundups from Paris Fashion Week. But these topics are integrated alongside content focused on women's issues, from empowering women through our coverage of body diversity to our unique perspective and coverage on global news, to first-person essays covering difficult subjects from domestic abuse to mental health. Our subject areas are broad because they reflect the interests of our audience, and Refinery29 is a place where there's no judgment placed on your interests. Our audience don't fit in boxes, and so neither does our content. Instead, we provide access to new ideas and perspectives, and in doing so connect women to each other and the world around them, laddering up to our mission of empowering and inspiring women everywhere. So we produce 30,000 pieces of content a year, from our editorial written work through to customized photo shoots, unique illustrations, and of course video. We've grown our video views by 994% in the past year by producing a range of content, from documentaries to scripted comedy to quick Facebook beauty tutorials. And we reach more than 25 million a month on our own platforms, and a further 150 million on our social platforms. Over 35% of our audience come to us 9 times or more a month, and we believe firmly that scale and engagement hold hands in creating the influence that our brand has achieved. So we began our international story pretty recently, in September 2015, when it was announced that we were opening new editions in London and Berlin. Of course, we've always been a global platform, and 20% of our audience already comes from outside of the US. But it was an important moment in our story and a powerful testament to our desire to serve audiences around the world and grow our reach and relevance. Since then, we've launched Refinery.uk in London, from where I'm based, and apologies if you were expecting a nice New York accent. We've quickly grown audience, and we're really, really proud of the content that we're creating and the impact that we're already making. And particularly appropriate, in the coming months, we're launching in Germany from our new offices based in Berlin. We're assembling a fantastic editorial team, and just as with the UK, our ambition is to grow our audience and relevance before we begin to monetize. And we're, of course, exploring many more markets. So, what makes Refinery29 tick, and how does this impact on our global strategy? We understand our success is because we understand women. It was this audience that first fell in love with the original retail product of Refinery29, and these women are at the epicenter of our brand, and for 10 years we've adapted and grown based on our understanding of them and their rich complexity. We understand them because we create content for them, but also because our data and insights are constantly seeking to optimize their experience. Whether it's understanding the history of a Facebook like, through to dedicated research on their relationship with technology or trend forecasting. We like to think about it as a combination of art and science, intuition about their lives and experience with the data to prove it. So today I wanted to share our reflections on our audience and how that's shaping our global strategy. The first thing that I wanted to share was that we don't think millennial is a generation. We think it's a mindset. Click. Yay. We think that millennial has led to very unsatisfactory categorizations of audience. We prefer the term millennial mindset, which can serve this generation and others. These characteristics are the behavior that define our audience, and they're the principles with which we can grow our global editorial and operational strategy. There are 3 principles that characterize our understanding. The first is the new global citizen. The second is the importance of individuality, and the third is the need for purpose, belonging, and community. So, the global citizen. Our audience regard themselves as global citizens. They have a global perspective. On the one hand, it may be because they've lost trust in the established pillars of society, whether that's corporate institutions that have been engulfed in scandals, or whether that's as a result of austerity and issues to do with dissatisfaction with politicians. It was no surprise to us that in a recent poll, the American pollster Frank Lutz revealed that 35% of Generation Snapchat regard themselves as global citizens, not citizens of the US. And that's our experience too. 30% of Refinery29's audience surveyed said that they believe they'll live in another country in their lifetime. So this generation are more engaged in global context and culture than any before. And they exist in a 24/7 always-on global content cycle where albums are dropped, fashion lines are released, and influencers from beauty bloggers to Kim Kardashian have instantaneous global reach. Let's just take a look at this post from Kim Kardashian last week. What strikes me is not just that she had 473,000 likes in 29 minutes, although that is extremely impressive. It's that the top 3 comments are in 3 different languages. It's a simple and powerful snapshot of today's global audience. So returning back to our map, Refinery29 is both an enabler of global community and a source of global connectedness. So how have we responded to this when we think about our global expansion? The first is that we have an always-on global creative network. Our editorial teams are more than the sum of their parts. The first way is that our international platforms are able to instantaneously share from sites within our network, whether that's the UK team republishing from .com, or the US team based in New York taking stories from our .uk site. Through data, we understand the trends of what our audience is looking for on sites, on search. We layer in social listening, and this allows us to respond to traffic on site proactively and reactively. We responsively curate, serving our audiences with the stories they want from anywhere in the world. And what's really exciting is whilst you may assume that this is one-way traffic from our larger .com site to our .uk site and others in our international network, Germany, for example, what we're actually seeing is UK stories consistently performing really well on .com, from social channels to appearing in the homepage hero bar. Whether it's featuring one of my favorite UK bloggers, who is very little known but only ever wears black, to a strange, quirky story we found about a woman who was running a marathon and her dog ran it with her. Of course, this applies to news stories and breaking events, but it's more about strategic collaboration and investment in editorial. We're offering something completely unique when Fashion Week coverage is produced by collective teams from London and New York, and soon to be Berlin. And we're working together to direct resources into production and events that have global impact, from the Oscars to our coverage of global news. We're working on large editorial strands that have truly global voices with perspectives from the world over. So our content calendar is global in perspective and always on, just like hers. So our desire to share global stories is ingrained in our publishing culture, but it goes further. and it's one of the key guides we use to determine where we're going to open our international editions or launch new offices. We chose London and Berlin for the basis of our European operation for a very clear reason. It's because they're at the heart of a cultural movement, home to a creative community shaping the world, not just in fashion and style, but in the very articulation of culture. In the UK, we've already begun to create content in Germany. One example highlighting recent changes to paternity leave, the other a street style roundup. The paternity leave story generated 22,000 sessions in 24 hours, and the street style story was one of our top performers in January. I'm overwhelmed by the creativity in Berlin, the energy, the dynamism. And whereas I suspect many US media brands entering this market come to import their vision and their content, we're here for a very different reason. We want to bring Berlin to the world. So the second value of our understanding of the millennial mindset is the importance of individuality. For our audience, a sense of global connectedness is mirrored to their understanding of themselves as individuals. They want to be represented in the media they consume. At Refinery, we describe this as our commitment to self-expression, not homogeneous perspectives or prescriptive trends. We say that our content should give you tools, not rules, and everything we do has a call to action to make you feel something, laugh, share, think, challenge. Our content provides the tools you need for self-expression, whether it's roundups and hacks to inspirational content to fuel your daydreams. So how does individuality express itself in our brand and purpose? Well, just look at this example. When you type in women into Google Images, this is what you get, she says, hopefully. Okay, it's a bit slow, I apologize, but the point is good. It's a very homogeneous, very predictable view of women. Now, have a look at what happens when you type in Refinery29 women into Google Images. Again, hopefully. Okay. You see a completely different picture. You're struck by the diversity, the modernity, the variety of women featured, how they're pictured. It's a powerful message. And this value of individuality has two expressions for our international expansion. Just as the audience regard themselves as individuals and we represent them as such, so our international brands have to be individual. They have to have powerful local tone and purpose. Our brand is adaptive and organic, and we've evolved and will continue to do so as we launch in new markets, all in service of our local audiences. Our UK site, for example, has a far less conversational tone than our US one. English girls don't want to be friends with you straight away. They need to get to know you first. And suffice to say, I suspect that the importance of tone in Germany is equally important. I dare to say it will be even more direct. So it's through our brand and values we've built our relationship with our audience, and we apply the same tools, not rules, concept to our individual content as we do to the brand as we grow it internationally. The third value of our millennial mindset is the need for community, belonging, and purpose. It might seem contradictory because I've just spoken about the fact that this audience want to be regarded as individuals, but they also want to belong. They need community and a sense of purpose for their passions. This desire has two very important impacts on us. The first is that we believe in the power of the niche. Our perspective is this, that niches sound small, but in fact they're passion points, subject matters, interest areas that can build huge communities. They are points of engagement as well as scale, and importantly, they can come from anywhere. One example was in 2013, we saw 55,000 searches coming to a story we had run on BB creams. Now, for those of you that don't know what a BB cream is, it's a blemish balm, it's a beauty product that had originated in Germany, but took off in a huge way in South Korea. We saw this, and we realized there's probably an appetite for more Korean beauty coverage. So we turned to the people that already know this space, beauty experts, Korean women, so they could share their expertise with our audience. We hired a columnist in South Korea, Joyce Kong, who brings her experience of cutting-edge trends in the Korean beauty scene to our global audience. And Joyce's column performed 68% above average in terms of time spent on our site. Because ultimately, for us, by tapping into experts and giving voice to a niche doesn't just mean that we ride the wave of a trend. It means we're providing unique content and information that our readers won't get anywhere else. We're helping shape the trends. The second and related way that our belief in belonging and purpose shapes our content and operational strategy is that we're passionate about building relationships with the world's best contributors, personalizing our content around individual experiences and allowing them to inform and inspire our audiences. We know that 60% of those that come to our site look to individuals for inspiration. We respond to that by tackling difficult subjects through personal stories and written by global talent. We make the content relatable, and it's for that reason that a key part of our international strategy is not just opening new offices and local editions, but growing our creative network globally. One such example was that last year, after the tragic events in Paris, we published an essay from a young French lawyer. She lives in London, but she was in Paris visiting home for the weekend. She spoke at her horror about the events in her hometown, and a simple observation she made about the area the attacks happened led to a flurry of comments on our site. If I was in Paris, that could have been me. It was a terrible, tragic event, and in one woman sharing her story, a community was built. This is critical for understanding our understanding of what global means for Refinery29. Whilst we're committed to local offices and launching new editions, serving our audiences in those markets, we're not going to stop there. And we're building a global contributor network to showcase voices from the world over. In the last year, we produced content in the Philippines, Holland, Brazil, Syria, Japan, Iran. We have a correspondent in China. We have freelance writer relationships all over Europe, a Korean beauty correspondent in Seoul, and our influencer network here and now is building relationships with talent across the world. As we continue our expansion, our global contributor network is a key part of that understanding. So, in summary, our understanding of the audience as global citizens, the importance of individuality and self-expression, and the need for belonging and community are shaping not just our international strategy, content, but also our operational growth. Thank you very much. Very happy to take questions.
Kate, thank you. If we have questions, can we do the usual? Raise our hands, and I can see one here and one there. So can we take gentleman over here first? Or if you're coming past anyway, let's take this lady here first, and then we'll come round to the gentleman on my right. You raise your hand again.
Ladies first, right? Hi, my name is Caroline Vader from The Big Story, and I have a question. How much of your content is shared among international platforms?
Well, we're sharing a large amount. It's proportionate to the number of stories a day that each site makes, and our US platform publishes a much larger volume than our UK. But it's a very decent percentage. In the UK, about over a third. In the US, in context, it's not that much because we're not creating as much individually. But I think the point is also, it's not just about sharing content, it's about collective response to those important moments. So Paris Fashion Week this year, we had our editor-in-chief, one US editor, one UK editor, working together to cover the shows. It gave a really interesting perspective, and it's something that it gives a different flavor to our coverage, which is really important.
Okay, so we'll fit one more in very quickly.
Thank you. Kate, we're in Canada. We'd love to see your brand up there sometime. I wonder if you could expand on the contributor model. You mentioned a story that got a lot of traction, the lawyer, young female lawyer in Paris. I assume it wasn't a paid story, and I just wonder if you can talk a bit about the contributor model, why they bother to write for you, how other publishers can attract that level of content.
You know, I think it's a really good point, and I think the reason that people want to write for us is because they love the brand. We are really incredibly fortunate to be able to go to many countries around the world, as I do, and say, oh, I don't suppose you've heard of Refinery29. I love Refinery29. I've been reading it for 10 years. So there's a love of the brand, and then there's a desire to connect to our mission of empowering and inspiring women. It's something that women want to be part of, and it's something that we're happy for them to be part of. How do we grow that in real terms? We have amazing relationships with freelance writers, and we seek them through their work, through social, as well as having a very strong influencer, traditional influencer activation there.
Okay, we'll have to, I'm afraid, to leave it there because we have a short break. Can I ask you, please, to thank Kate very much? Kate, thank you.